All right, get ready to explore, because today we're diving deep into Swedish culture. Beyond the usual stereotypes, we're talking about what makes this culture so unique. We've got some amazing sources lined up for this deep dive. Official government websites, cultural insights, and even a glimpse into the life of a real Swedish influencer, Leah Berg. Leah's a 22-year-old from Stockholm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's got this infectious energy for travel, fashion, fitness, and get this, Juventus football.
Juventus! That's interesting.
Right, not what you'd expect.
Not at all. It's those personal touches that often reveal the most fascinating cultural insights. It's the individual stories like Leah's that bring a culture to life.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And speaking of unexpected things, did you know that Sweden was actually the first country in the world to ban corporal punishment of children?
Really?
Yeah, back in 1979.
Oh, that's ahead of the curve.
Way ahead.
Yeah.
And it really shows their commitment to children's rights and well-being. They weren't messing around. Over 65 countries have followed their lead since then, enacting similar bans.
That's incredible. It really speaks volumes about their values.
It does, and it goes beyond just legislation.
Oh.
They even created special institutions just for kids, like the Ombudsman for Children.
Ombudsman for children.
Yeah. I had to look it up, too. It's a big deal. They're like a dedicated advocate chosen by the Swedish parliament to make sure kids are treated fairly. They investigate complaints, look over laws and policies, and basically make sure kids' voices are heard.
Wow, that's impressive. A whole system just for kids' rights.
Right. And then there's BRIS. It stands for Children's Rights in Society.
So they focus on the practical side of things.
Exactly. They have this free and confidential helpline where kids can talk about anything. Bullying, family problems, you name it.
That's so important, having a safe space to talk.
Absolutely. They even offer counseling and support groups.
Wow, so they've really got all bases covered when it comes to supporting children.
It's amazing, right? They're really putting their values into action.
Yeah.
But it's not all serious business in Sweden. Remember Leah's love for adventure.
Oh, right. She's quite the adventurer.
Well, in Sweden, exploring the outdoors is practically a national pastime.
Makes sense, with all that beautiful nature.
And it's not just encouraged, it's actually written into their law.
Really?
Yeah. They have something called the right of public access.
Okay, I've heard of this, but what exactly does it mean?
Basically, everyone has the right to roam freely in nature, even on private land.
Wait, even on private land?
You heard that right. As long as you respect certain guidelines, you can wander through forests, fields, you name it.
So you're telling me I could just stroll through someone's backyard picking wildflowers?
Well, not exactly picking wildflowers. You're not supposed to disturb or take anything from the land. And you can't camp too close to someone's home or bother any livestock, obviously. But the main idea is that nature should be accessible to all, regardless of who you are or how much money you have.
That's such a cool concept. It makes you wonder why other countries haven't adopted something similar.
I know, right? No wonder Swedes feel such a strong connection to the outdoors. It's ingrained in their culture from a young age.
And it explains why Leah is so drawn to exploring new places.
For sure. Speaking of skills, did you know that Swedish kids are expected to be able to swim 200 meters by the time they're 12?
200 meters? That's quite a distance.
Right. My childhood swimming lessons involved a lot less distance and a lot more floaties. What's the reason behind that emphasis on swimming?
Well, Sweden has a lot of lakes and coastlines, so knowing how to swim is crucial for safety.
Oh, that makes sense. You wouldn't want to be caught off guard with all that water around.
Exactly. But it goes deeper than just safety. They also want children to feel comfortable and confident exploring their country's natural beauty.
So it's this beautiful blend of practicality and that deep connection to nature again. I love it. And it makes me think about Leah's love for Juventus. You might not think of Sweden as a hotbed of football fandom, but sports are actually huge there.
Oh, absolutely. They're passionate about all sorts of sports. Ice hockey, floorball, even horseback riding is surprisingly popular, especially among young girls.
Okay, so we've got kids exploring forests, swimming like fish, and indeed cheering for their favorite teams. It's a far cry from those stereotypical images of quiet, minimalist Scandinavians.
It just goes to show you that there's always more than meets the eye, right? Cultures are complex and multifaceted.
Exactly. But where does Leah's love for Juventus, an Italian team, fit into all of this?
Well, that's where her multicultural background comes into play. Remember, her father is Polish.
Ah, right. So maybe her love for Juventus comes from her Polish heritage, a shared family passion, perhaps.
Exactly. It speaks to the beautiful complexity of cultural identity. We often box it in as this one thing, but Leah shows us how multiple influences can intersect and shape who we are.
It's like her story is adding a new layer to our understanding of what Swedish culture can be. It's not just one monolithic thing, it's a tapestry of influences. Now, I'm really curious to see how this interplay between individual experience and cultural values plays out as we delve deeper into Leah's world. Okay, folks, we're going to take a quick pause here, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll be diving even deeper into Leah's life, exploring how her passions and interests both reflect and challenge those fascinating Swedish traditions we've been uncovering. Stay tuned. And we're back, folks. We're diving even deeper into Swedish culture with Leah Berg, our Juventus-loving influencer extraordinaire, remember.
I think her unique background, Polish father, Swedish mother, really highlights those cultural nuances we've been talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She embodies that global citizen spirit while staying connected to her Swedish roots. And it makes you think about work-life balance, something Sweden's famous for.
Right. And it's more than just long vacations. It's ingrained in their society.
Exactly. Generous parental leave. The emphasis on spending time outdoors. Do you think Leah experienced this growing up? Could her family dynamic with her Polish father and Swedish mother have given her that more nuanced perspective?
Possibly, and it makes her online content even more interesting to look at. This vibrant life she shares, filled with travel, fashion, fitness, even football. But she's also open about those quieter moments, enjoying a good book, cozy evenings at home.
Which brings us to lagom, that Swedish ideal of balance.
Not about extremes, right? It's about finding that sweet spot.
Exactly. And you see it everywhere in Sweden, from their design aesthetic to their social interactions.
That minimalist approach, valuing simplicity, being present.
And you can totally feel those lagom vibes in Leah's posts. It's refreshing. She's not pushing one lifestyle, just showing how she finds balance. One day she's goofy, the next she's super chic. It's authentic.
It really is like she's going against the grain of typical influencer culture.
Which might be the most Swedish thing ever.
Right.
Okay, back to Leah's love for Juventus.
Still find it interesting.
I do. We talked about how much Swedes love sports, but Italian football, it's a curveball.
True, but it makes you think, right? Cultures evolve. They're not stuck in the past.
Just because something isn't traditionally Swedish doesn't mean it can't be embraced.
Exactly. Individual expression adds so much richness and depth.
Who knows, maybe Leah's converting a whole new generation of Swedes to Serie A.
Imagine Juventus jerseys popping up in those minimalist Scandinavian homes. What a mashup.
Now that I'd love to see. Okay, last but not least, Leah has one more surprise. Something that really challenges those typical Swedish stereotypes. She loves motorbikes.
Motorbikes. Now, that's not something you'd expect.
Right. Leather jacket, helmet, ready to hit the open road. It's like she's saying, Sweden's got forests and we freedom, let's explore both.
It speaks to that adventurous spirit we talked about, that connection to nature. Remember the right of public access. It's not just about peaceful hikes. It's about embracing the wild side.
Feeling the wind in your hair, or under your helmet in this case. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive into Swedish culture. From children's rights to, well, Leah's love for Juventus. It's been a journey.
It really has. But it all comes back to those underlying cultural values.
Absolutely. And how those values can manifest in so many different ways, like in Leah's case. So before we wrap things up, I want to hear from you, the listener. What resonated with you most?
Yeah, what surprised you?
Was it Sweden's dedication to children's well-being? Or maybe that right of public access? The freedom to roam practically anywhere.
I know, I was blown away by that one.
It's pretty amazing, right? Or maybe it was Leah's unique blend of Swedish and Italian passions.
See, what fascinates me most is how Sweden challenges those preconceived notions. You know, we often think of Nordic countries as having a certain, what's the word, reserve.
Right, like it's all about minimalism and quiet contemplation.
Exactly. And while that exists, Leah's story shows us there's this vibrant, adventurous side, too.
It's about balance, for sure, but also about embracing individuality, those quirks that make life interesting. Like they figured out how to have their cinnamon buns and motorbikes, too.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message. It's not an either situation.
It encourages us all to question our assumptions, not just about other cultures, but about our own lives.
To find that sweet spot between tradition and, well, shaking things up a bit like Leah herself.
Exactly. So to our listeners, keep exploring. Keep questioning those assumptions.
Look for those aha moments, the connections that expand your view of the world.
And hey, who knows? Maybe you'll be inspired to plan your own Swedish adventure.
Imagine hiking through those pristine forests, taking a dip in an ice-cold lake.
Or even catching a Juventus match with some die-hard Swedish fans. The possibilities are endless. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into Swedish culture. We'll see you next time.